There comes a time in every man's life where he stares at something beautiful, something sacred, and instead of appreciating it like a normal human being, he thinks, yeah, I could absolutely ruin this. And for me, that masterpiece is The Last of Us, a game about survival, trauma, and two people slowly bonding in a world that wants them dead.
Brother,
And after a whole lot of shit and not enough cum, I decided the best possible way to experience that story was to remove the one thing stopping me from getting my cheeks spread like a hardcore novel.
Ow!
Guns. Because this game loves guns. Every encounter is basically the devs edging you to start blasting like you've got something to prove. And instead, I'm out here willingly choosing to play like a budget caveman with commitment issues, refusing to touch anything that goes bang. Now the rules are simple. No guns. If it shoots, it's dead to me. Pistols, rifles, panic shots when I'm about to get folded like fresh laundry. All banned. The only exceptions I'm allowing are the bow and the flamethrower. And before anyone starts crying in the comments, yes, I googled it. Flamethrower isn't a gun. That's not my opinion. That's Google AI telling me I'm spiritually in the clear. Which is fantastic, because we're also doing this on Survivor difficulty, where loot is drier than a nun's search history, ammo is basically a myth, and every encounter feels like the game just left a 1-star Yelp review on my asshole.
That stinks.
So the real challenge here isn't the infected, it's trying to stay alive long enough to do literally anything before I get turned into a snack. So buckle up, because this is either going to be really fucking impressive, or the slowest mental breakdown I've ever uploaded. The game opens with the prologue, and look, I'm not even going to try and be funny here, because it actually hits in the nuts. Joel goes from normal dad to completely broken in about 15 minutes, and the game makes sure you feel every second of it. It's chaotic, it's brutal, and it sets the tone perfectly for the kind of world we're about to suffer through. Which is fantastic, because now I have to survive that exact world, with the combat ability of a damn sponge. We jump forward 20 years. Joel's now a smuggler, running jobs just to get by. Ellie gets dumped on us as a simple escort mission that is very obviously not going to stay simple, and just like that, the run actually begins. Now early on, the quarantine zone and the outskirts aren't too bad. The game is still easing you in. There aren't a ton of enemies, and if you were playing normally, you'd probably just shoot your way through and move on with your life. But for this challenge, this is where reality sets in, because stealth isn't optional. It's about to become my entire personality. The moment I get spotted, the game doesn't even hesitate. No hero play, no clutch recovery, just a swift professional ass whooping and a fast track ticket back to the last checkpoint like I just dropped my pants in front of it. So instead of fighting, I'm sneaking. Avoiding encounters, hugging walls, moving like the most paranoid little rat you've ever seen. And honestly, most of the time, the best possible outcome is just not engaging at all. But the biggest shift in this section wasn't learning stealth, it was learning how to die. Because early on, it's all pressure. Slow movement, perfect timing, treating every clicker like it's the final boss. Then you die. Then you die again. And again. And after the game has conducted a full performance review on your butthole one too many times, something in you just stops caring. You stop being scared. Because once you accept that you're going to die anyway, the fear just disappears. The infected aren't terrifying anymore. The soldiers aren't intimidating. They're just obstacles standing between you and your next checkpoint. And just like that, the game stops being about horror and turns into a war of attrition. Eventually the game throws me into a first real, yeah, this might have been a mistake moment. That early room with one clicker and a handful of runners. On paper, it sounds manageable. In reality, this shit had me in a chokehold.
This is fine.
Ellie and Tess need me to clear the room, so that's it. No skipping in the encounter, no sneaking by, no morally grey little shortcuts. I have to do it properly. Problem is, every single mistake might as well come with a siren strapped to it. One bad step and the runners are on me instantly. The clicker locks in like I owe it child support. And before I can even think, I'm catching hands and hemorrhoids at the exact same time.
What?
So I die. And again. Over and over and over. At first, I tried to play it perfectly. Sneaking, moving slow, trying to be clean. But after enough attempts, I realized that just wasn't happening. So instead, I adapted. I started thinning the herd, one runner at a time, messy, slow, borderline embarrassing gameplay, but it was working. Once the runners were gone, I baited the clicker away, circled around like the sneakiest little rat on the planet, and stuck that blade straight into its neck.
That's why he's the GOAT!
I'm not even gonna lie, the satisfaction I felt in that moment, unreal. Like I'd actually accomplished something. Like I'd finally made my parents proud. But looking back on it now, that encounter was easy, which is terrifying, because it only gets worse from here. After barely scraping through the outskirts, the game decides I haven't suffered enough and drops Tess's death straight on my head. She gets bitten, stays behind, and suddenly the whole vibe changes. What felt like a rough little escort mission now has actual weight to it. It's one of those scenes that reminds you death and this world go together like arse cheeks on a hot summer's day. Which is great, because now it's just me, Ellie, and my rapidly declining sanity heading into Bill's town. And for a while, it's actually not that bad. We're looting, scavenging, I'm pretending I have some level of control over what's happening. And then the game immediately reminds me who's in charge by stringing me upside down like some kind of post-apocalyptic pinata. And now this is where things get a little questionable, because you're forced to use a gun here. So technically, runs over, pack it up, upload cancel.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
But since the game literally grabs you by the cock and says shoot or die, we're gonna let that one slide and pretend it never happened. From there, moving into the school, I realized something very important. I'm not the main character, Bill is. Because this guy is basically my unpaid intern, bodyguard, and emotional support animal all at once, while I'm flapping around behind him trying to punch infected in the back of the head before I get my shit rocked. Now don't get it twisted, the AI teammates are still frauds. The accuracy is so bad I'm pretty sure they're just firing for morale, missing more often than not, and contributing pure chaos to the situation. But weirdly, they still save my ass. They pull enemies out of position, hand me little openings, and act as moving bait so I can circle around and light the erection in my heart by smashing anything that isn't facing me. It's not clean, it's not pretty, but it works. And then the bloater enters the chat, and I'm instantly convinced this thing is about to become my full-time employer. I was expecting hours of pain, repeated deaths, and the kind of ass beating that leaves you sitting on a cushion, wondering why you ever thought this challenge was a good idea. But surprisingly, it wasn't that bad. A couple of bombs, a few arrows, and this absolute unit just drops. And just like that, I'm standing there thinking I've finally figured the game out, which looking back on it now, was incredibly stupid. Because then we hit Pittsburgh, and I fucking hate this place. Something about this section just feels miserable. Maybe it's the endless ambushes, maybe it's the fact every enemy seems personally offended that I'm alive. But the whole thing plays like a slow motion headache. It's not even dramatic pain. It's just constant, low-grade suffering, like the rest of the challenge hasn't been too much of a hemorrhoid, so this part suddenly decided to become one.
That's what I'm saying.
And unfortunately, it's a long one. We crash into the city, immediately get jumped, and from that point on, it's just survival. Me, Ellie, and a whole lot of people who are very committed to turning my skull into a decorative item. So naturally, we fall back into the same strategies as before. Stealth, patience, and me slowly losing my mind. But this is where I actually start to adapt. Not because it gets easier, but because I stop fighting the suffering and start working with it. Bricks and bottles become the whole damn economy. I've played this game before, but I never fully understood how disgustingly busted these things are until now. You bonk someone for 2 seconds, and that's your opening. Sprint in, deliver a one-time suppository to their asshole, then get the hell out of there before the rest of the room clocks what happened. It's quick, it's efficient, and most importantly, it keeps me alive, which at this point is all I can really ask for. And as we keep dragging ourselves through Pittsburgh, that's where things really start to escalate, because the encounters get longer, the enemies get more aggressive, and the margin for error basically disappears. And then there's that section by the gate. You know the one. Way too many guards, all strapped, all ready to absolutely destroy my pelvis. And I'm out here with a brick and a wet dream.
Nice.
This wasn't even a fight. This was a survivor horror puzzle disguised as a gangbang. Because the second you step out at the wrong time, the second you step out into the spotlight, you're done. Instantly spotted, bullets flying, Joel dropping like he just remembered his credit card bill. And there's no fighting your way out of it either. There are too many of them, all with guns, all hitting shots like they've got aim assist turned on, while I'm out here gently whispering sweet nothings into their neck. So after getting my ass clapped hard enough that the controller probably wanted a safe word, I changed the plan. No more trying to be clean, no more trying to be fast. I became a rat again, hiding in the back corner like I pay rent there, waiting, watching, picking them off one by one like the world's least intimidating serial killer. Slowly thinning the herd, painfully slowly, until eventually, of course, I get spotted. But there's only a couple left, and suddenly the whole situation flips. One Molotov, a couple of panic swings with a lead pipe, and just like that, it's over. And I'm sitting there thinking I'm a genius, like I've mastered the game. Like I've ascended to some higher level of gameplay, which is hilarious because the game was about to humble me immediately after. Because not long after that little I'm a genius moment, we move into the sewers. And this place, this is where the game reminds you that confidence is a disease. At first, it's manageable. Same rules as always, sneak, scavenge, don't do anything stupid, which is already a big ask for me. But then we get split up, and suddenly I'm back in another school, surrounded by infected, fighting my life with the combat ability of a damp napkin. It's messy, it's stressful, it's a pain in the hemorrhoid, but it's not the problem, because the game is building towards something something much worse. That one section, the one that nearly ended the run. The room. Low health, no resources, locked in with infected and told to survive. Now I don't even know how many times I died here, and I'm not even saying that for dramatic effect. I genuinely lost count. It got to the point where I wasn't even reacting anymore. I'd respawn, walk into the room, get absolutely folded, and just sit there like, yep, fair enough, that one's on me. Over and over and over again. Every strategy I tried just didn't work. I try to hold my ground, get overwhelmed. Try to run, clipped once and dead. Try to play it slow. Somehow even worse. It felt like no matter what I did, the game had already decided how it was going to end. And for the first time in the entire run, I genuinely felt like this challenge was impossible. No guns, no resources, no backup plan. Just me getting repeatedly violated by infected with what felt like a personal vendetta. And then, somehow, I got through it. Not clean, not controlled, not even remotely intentional. I was on the verge of death, swinging that rusty pipe like it owed me money, running in circles hoping something would give, and then suddenly the door opens, and every infected just disappears. Gone. Like they clocked off their shift and went home. And I'm just standing there with no health, no dignity, and as limp as I've ever been. And honestly, I don't think I was supposed to. If you wanted to be strict about it, you could probably end the video right there and say, yeah nah, this isn't doable without guns. But at this point, I'm not asking questions. I'm moving on before the game changes its mind. The problem is, the game doesn't exactly reward you for surviving that, because immediately after, I'm still running around with basically no health, and now I've got to deal with a sniper who can one-shot me if I so much as breathe in his direction. And this is where the run really starts leaning into that same pattern again. Trial, error, repeat. You learn the movements, you find the path, you die enough times that eventually something lines up just right and you slip through. It's not skill in the traditional sense, it's persistence. Eventually I make it through, deal with a sniper, and then, because the game has a sick sense of humour, I get forced into another gun section. So once again, technically, runs in the mud. But we move on, and then the story flicks your bumhole again. Sam gets bitten, turns overnight, Henry has to put him down and then just checks out himself. And it's one of those moments where everything just kind of stops for a second. No jokes, no gameplay, just the reminder that this world does not give a shit how well you're doing. It will still take everything from you anyway. From there, we meet up with Tommy, get a brief moment of calm, and then head off towards the university. And this is where things start to shift. Joel's not just some bloke I'm dragging through hell anymore. You can feel that he actually gives a shit about Ellie now. It's subtle, but it's there. In the way he talks, the way he reacts, the way he starts taking things a little more personally. And then of course, everything goes to shit. We get jumped, Joel gets impaled, and just like that, the entire dynamic flips on its head. And because this game loves kicking you while you're down, we get hit with another scripted moment where I'm forced to use a gun.
Oh, what a loser!
But we move on, because what comes next is way more important. Joel's barely conscious, bleeding out, and Ellie, who up until now has basically been the one getting protected, suddenly has to step up. And she does. She drags this full-grown man out of there, gets him to safety, patches him up with whatever scrap she can find, all while being completely out of her depth. But somehow, she keeps him alive, which is exactly why the next section hits so differently. Because now, we're not playing as Joel anymore, we're playing as Ellie, and things were about to get a whole lot more stressful. Now Ellie's gameplay is interesting. On one hand, she's got a knife, which means clickers go from being the scariest thing in the game to something I can actually deal with if I play it right. If David distracts them, I can sneak up, get the kill, move on. On the other hand, anything else in a one-on-one? Yeah, she gets folded instantly and leaves me wishing I had purchased more aloe vera to soothe my ass from all the ass clapping I was receiving. So the strategy becomes very clear, very quickly. Let David do everything. This man is out here tanking, distracting, carrying the whole encounter on his back while I'm running around like a gremlin, stabbing something once and immediately sprinting away before I get turned into a statistic.
I don't want to be a pie.
It's not heroic, it's not clean, but it's sure as hell effective. I do use the bow a few times, but on survivor difficulty, ammo is basically a myth, so unless I've been stuck on an encounter long enough to memorize every movement down to a science, I'm sticking to the knife and letting David earn his paycheck.
You're my boy, Blue!
Eventually, we push through, trade the deer for medicine, and then, because nothing in this game is ever simple, it turns out David is actually the leader of the same group we pissed off earlier at the university. So now, not only am I under-equipped, under-prepared, and sexually exhausted, I'm also dealing with a psychopath. Ellie gets captured, things get very uncomfortable very quickly, and this entire section turns into a mix of stealth, survival, and me trying not to get immediately deleted every time I mess up. And then Joel wakes up, and this is where things completely flip, because up until now I've been playing slow, careful, patient. But this section, That doesn't work. You've got barely any resources, enemies with guns, and no room to breathe. If you try to sneak it perfectly, you just get spotted and folded anyway. So after dying a lot, I realized the only way through this part was to get aggressive. Like really aggressive. Get right up in their face, pressure them, force them to panic. And suddenly, instead of hunting me, they're running. And that's the key, because once they start backing off, you can isolate them, pick them off one by one. It's messy, it's chaotic, half the time it looks like I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but it works just enough to get me through. And honestly, it felt completely different to the rest of the run. Less like survival, and more like pure desperation. Eventually though, Joel finds Ellie, we deal with the absolute nightmare that is David, and just like that, we're heading into the final stretch. By this point in the challenge, something's changed. I'm not trying to play well anymore, I'm not trying to be clean or efficient or even good. I'm just trying to survive. Every encounter is the same mindset. Move slow, learn the patterns, die enough times that eventually something lines up just right and you get through it. It's less about skill and more about stubbornness. So when we finally reach Salt Lake City, I already know exactly what this is going to be. Not a clean run, not a heroic finale, just one last stretch of controlled chaos. The tunnels underneath weren't too bad, a couple of annoying sections sure, but by this point I fully embraced the lifestyle.
I am the danger.
And then we reach the hospital. Ellie's passed out, Joel gets knocked out by the fireflies, and when he wakes up, he finds out they're about to operate on her to make a cure, which will kill her. And Joel? Yeah, he's not exactly thrilled about that. So naturally, he goes on an absolute rampage. And this part was rough. Every guard has an assault rifle, and I'm basically made of wet paper. 1 or 2 shots and I'm straight back to the checkpoint. So there's only one way through. Slow it down, learn their movement, pick them off one by one like the world's most stubborn little rat. And eventually, it works. Bit of luck, couple of clutch checkpoints, a few moments where everything just lines up perfectly, and we make it through. We get to the operating room, take out the doctor, grab Ellie, and then Marlene tries to stop us. Joel shoots her, and just like that, it's over. So yeah, can you beat The Last of Us with no guns? Yes, but also not really, because technically the game forces your hand a couple of times, so if you want to be annoying about it, the run's dead. But outside of that, yeah, you can absolutely do it. It's painful, it's messy, it will test your sanity in ways that probably aren't healthy.
I'm in danger.
But it's doable. And honestly, that's what makes it fun. If you enjoy watching me suffer through this absolute disaster, make sure to like the video, subscribe if you're new, and drop a comment with whatever challenge you want to see next. Because clearly, I haven't learned my lesson. And if you're still in the mood to watch me make terrible decisions, there's another video on screen right now that YouTube thinks you'll love. Go on, give it a click, and watch me talk absolute nonsense again. Thanks for watching, until next time, goodbye.